Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John, this is many a true nerd, and welcome to a quick chat about Fallout New Vegas and the second season of the Fallout TV show. Because you see, we just got our first proper trailer for season 2 of the show, and based on what we've seen so far, this could have some really fun implications for our understanding of the story, and specifically ending, of Fallout New Vegas. But okay, let's get everyone on the same page here. The reason this is of note is the Fallout TV series does officially take place in the same continuity as the Fallout games, just a few years later. So while New Vegas takes place in 2281, the year in the Fallout TV series is 2296, or at least it was in Season 1. It might be a tiny bit later, but it feels like Lucy and Cooper were fairly keen to crack on with their journey. And according to Google Maps, you can walk from LA to Vegas in a couple of weeks, so it's probably still about 2296. Especially given, no matter what's happened in the world, that was a common trade route for many years, so it should be relatively easy to follow the Long 15 to the Mojave outpost and beyond. The point is, the series is set later than any of the games, and this leads to all sorts of interesting bits and pieces, especially when it comes to dealing with a few questions about canon. Of all the possible endings to every Fallout game, which one was actually the established version of events that any potential future game will follow? And the level of complexity here does vary a lot game to game. Fallout 3, for example, is very simple. Thanks to Fallout 4, we can be certain that the modified FEV didn't poison the DC wasteland, and that the Broken Steel campaign ended with a Brotherhood victory, leaving the Brotherhood in possession of Adam's Air Force Base and leading straight into the events of Fallout 4. Fallout 2 deals with most of the questions about Fallout 1, New Vegas deals with a lot about Fallout 2. But the big question mark has always been New Vegas, with its hugely varied selection of possible endings, and no game since being set on the West Coast. We just don't know what's supposed to be the actual version of events that occurred in New Vegas. But here comes Fallout Season 2, taking place in New Vegas about 15 years after the event of Fallout New Vegas, and visiting a whole bunch of landmarks we know from the games. In fact, next to Season 1 of the Fallout TV show, it feels like we're doing a lot more sightseeing, checking in on many familiar areas. And that means we might finally get some proper closure on what the true canonical ending of New Vegas might actually be. So let's start off with the big one here. What state is Vegas in, and what does that mean for the ending of New Vegas? In short, New Vegas has definitely seen better days. We had a couple of glances inside the strip, and despite the lights still being on, in both cases, it looks like it's no longer functioning as, well, the strip as we know it in New Vegas. Sand and tumbleweed have blown in, and based on the Lucky 38 pattern in the background when Lucy and Cooper are running away, it would appear that a Deathclaw has taken up residence. In short, the strip has fallen. So what does that actually mean? Well, my first assumption was that rules out a house ending to New Vegas, as that would leave Vegas securely locked down by an army of upgraded Securitrons. House going from a complete victory to monsters on his doorstep in 15 years does feel a bit unlikely. Meanwhile, a deserted strip would potentially be compatible with a lot of other endings. We know that Lanier straight up butchers the strip, Caesar would be a bit more peaceful, but it's still hard to imagine him maintaining it as a tourism and gambling destination, and the Yes Man ending does specifically flag that there would be some anarchy on the streets. Fires are mentioned, so it's easy to imagine that an independent Vegas might also collapse in time. And then there's the NCR. Based purely on information in the game, you'd think an NCR ending would have the strip still functioning very well. But this is 2296, so we know by this point the NCR is supposed to be in severe decline. Shady Sands has been nuked, probably in 2283, just after the events of New Vegas, using the age of Maximus to patch that slightly confusing Fall of Shady Sands in 2277 note in Season 1, which I guess we assume refers to a slightly earlier unknown crisis or something. Anyway, slight timeline confusion aside, the NCR was already overstretched and barely holding on to Vegas in 2281. That's perfectly clear in the game. So it would be reasonable to suggest they might not be able to hold on to New Vegas in the long term. And with the nuke factored in, yeah, an NCR victory, followed by a complete NCR withdrawal once their supply lines and central commands are literally exploded, that's consistent with an NCR ending too. So yeah, a ruined Vegas gives us less information than we might like. However, I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think all of this is misdirection. So let's turn our attention to another scene that we see. Lucy waking up in a room. And this is a very, very interesting room. Because the decor says this is a vault. The pattern on the carpet, meanwhile, looks an awful lot like a symbol seen commonly on the strip, both around the tops and in the Lucky 38, which I believe is supposed to look like the spin on a roulette table in motion. So my best guess, what we're seeing here is a Vault 21, and it appears to be functioning just fine. And that would mean parts of the strip are still being well maintained underground, almost as if the strip isn't as ruined as it looks. I might even speculate the Deathclaw could have been left there intentionally to dissuade people from sniffing around, and give the impression that the strip is in ruins. After all, we know that Hank's going to Vegas to look for something, and we see at least some Securitrons still active, and as I say, a vault in good condition, so yeah. I suspect Vegas might look ruined, but under the surface, you know what? I'll get back to that in just a second. For now, let's focus on other bits of New Vegas that we can identify. So, number 1, the Legion. They exist, though that doesn't itself help as much. No matter what ending happens in New Vegas, there's always going to be some Legion remnant somewhere. What's more interesting, though, is that chappie at the front there, wearing the laurel. That's the mark of Caesar, and logically, there has to be a new Caesar, because based on what we know of the health of the original New Vegas Caesar, he probably wasn't making it to 2296 anyway, even if he's not canonically killed within the game. But more interestingly, look at the armor. Red and gold, with spikes and a pattern like a cog on the shoulder. That right there is the Legate's armor. But the question is, who's wearing it? It's a well-known theory that Lanius isn't one man in New Vegas. It's an identity that's been used by multiple people, and we think that because the origin story given for Lanius is inconsistent when you ask Lucius and then Caesar, and Caesar's version of the story is inconsistent with Lanius' actual face when you unmask him at the end of the game. So, as a result of that, I reckon that's who we're looking at right here. A new Caesar who's probably taken the name Lanius, but isn't necessarily the same Lanius that we know from New Vegas. Novak, of course, is very much present as well, with the famous dinosaur and motel complex, though it does appear to have grown a swimming pool in the intervening years, and some scamp has gone and rotated the dinosaur. It also appears to be occupied by raiders, which is actually potentially in line with a whole bunch of different New Vegas endings. Novak could be abandoned on account of ghouls from the test site, Legion attacks, even radiation. In fact, the only way Novak survives at all is if you complete Come Fly With Me and then do a non-Legion ending. So that was always a town on the brink of collapsing to pressure from Nelson. Meanwhile, though seen very briefly, Freeside does seem to still be at least a bit habitable. We see Cooper getting thrown out of the Atomic Wrangler's window, and there are some scavengers with carts on the road below. Though, maybe things didn't work out for everyone, as that is 100% a couple of ghoulified kings getting gunned down by Lucy. Oh, and the Pridwin's back, flying over Area 51 actually, which is kinda fun, except now there are 4 of them. And that's annoying, because we were all assuming the existence of the Pridwin meant that we had it confirmed that the ending of Fallout 4 was either the Brotherhood or the Minuteman ending, because that's the only way the Pridwin survives. But okay, apparently the Brotherhood are just mass-producing the bastards now, so fine, toss out our previous Fallout 4 assumptions, I guess. But okay, let's wrap up on the big question here. What's the actual plot of Season 2? And I think we've now got enough information to put a good guess in. You see, a major plot point of Season 1 was that Vault-Tec planned to launch their own nuke to trigger the 2077 Great War on their terms, tricking both the US and China into thinking the other fired first. Now in Season 2, we hear Cooper confirming that Vegas was where the end of the world started, with one man, Mr. House. Later on, we see Hank arriving at a giant underground Vault-Tec facility, presumably the reason he came to Vegas. Put 2 and 2 together, and it seems likely that that's an underground silo that either did or was intended to launch the nuke that kicked off the Great War, possibly built in collaboration between Vault-Tec and Robco. And funnily enough, House being involved in building this giant secret underground silo does sit fairly nicely alongside the existing New Vegas story. It wouldn't even be his only secret underground bunker, in fact. But we also know that he had a high level of confidence that nuclear war was coming from 2065 onwards. So it's not such a stretch to suggest, if he was already certain the world would be nuked and literally says he either couldn't or didn't want to stop it, he may as well decide to help with setting the exact timescale if Vault-Tec are doing it anyway. And on a related note, I suspect this is where the Fallout TV series and New Vegas versions of the Great War's origins will merge. Given the TV series has House already at least aware of Vault-Tec's plan to trigger the Great War, and House in-game confirms that the nukes fell just a tiny bit too early before the Platinum chip arrived, that would suggest the possibility that Vault-Tec and House built the nuke in Vegas and intended to use it, but then the actual real war broke out anyway before they had the chance to do so. That leaves House's position in New Vegas making sense, and it also leaves a giant nuke sitting under Vegas, which could be what Hank and various other factions are after in Season 2. So that's House in the past, but what about House in 2296? Well, House should probably be dead. He wouldn't survive the events of New Vegas unless the canonical ending of the game is the House ending. And as I say, it's somewhat hard to reconcile that ending with the strip being abandoned and full of monsters in just 15 years. Unless, of course, like I was saying earlier, it's just possible the ruins of the strip are a piece of misdirection. Could House possibly have survived, and having gathered enough resources from the strip, emptied out the area rather efficiently by engineering a wild deathclaw infestation? Now I'll admit, that's very much in the realm of speculation, but there is one big clue that suggests House is still somehow active in the future, and that's Victor. So Victor is, in New Vegas, a bit of a mystery. He's an agent of Mr. House, he's lived in Good Springs for about 15 years, he may have been some form of a scout or spy in that time, until the events of New Vegas, where he arranges the business with the 6 couriers, 5 decoys the New Vegas main character, to transport the Platinum Chip back to House. Though it should be noted that yes, Victor is a program, not a specific Securitron. You can destroy him in New Vegas, and he just shows up again in a different unit, much like Yes Man. In fact, the very first time you get to the strip, you can see him jumping into a different Securitron to greet you, and then hopping straight back to the one by the Lucky 38. And in game after that point, he doesn't really serve much of a purpose. He literally just hangs out in the casino and works the elevator for you. He also just disappears if you kill a House. Why? Because he's not just any old Securitron. He's a lot more independent, and crucially, he only ever appears as an agent of House's schemes. Meaning, if Victor's present, that suggests that, even if House isn't around, his plans might have outlived him. And there's something rather fitting about Mr. House laying out a plan so well that it gets executed even after his death. Which is kind of what the Yes Man route in New Vegas is anyway. So yeah, House may or may not be alive, but through Victor, I suspect he'll still be an active force in the story. Which does lead me to one final theory. In House's room in New Vegas, there's another special Securitron, Jane. And we know that pre-war House created her by scanning the brain of a pre-war actress. So what if House, in case he was ever assassinated, scanned his own brain too? What if Victor's face might suddenly, probably at the end of an episode as a cliffhanger, turn into House's face instead, allowing a House to return even if he's canonically dead? Because, oh yeah, I could definitely see that flipping happening. Still, those are just some thoughts from me on Fallout Season 2 and some potential consequences for our understanding of the ending of New Vegas. Am I right in any way? Absolutely no cooking clue. I guess we'll find out in December when the TV series comes out, and when it does, I'm sure I'll have more to say about it then as well. So hopefully you're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I've been John, this has been Many a True Nerds, and this has just been a quick chat about Fallout Season 2 and the ending of Fallout New Vegas. Thank you very much, and goodbye. If we just hide the bodies, nobody needs to know about this. Yes! My stupid plan has worked! It turns out I'm a genius! The giant rat scorpion is not gone! Oh, hang on, there's more yet though, I'm still being very shocked. Guys, where's the NCR? Nobody needs to know.